Welcome to the Pat White Show. Let's get into it.
This is Sparta!
Well, recently I was able to give you some information about the nominee for vice president on the Kamala Harris ticket, Tim Waltz, governor of Minnesota, and some of his military stuff, especially involving his use of a rank that he does not have and did not earn. All right. I already talked about that, but now we're going to talk about his political background. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is because Mayor Pete Buttigieg, was on CNN on Sunday, and he was on with Dana Bash. And Dana Bash, you probably remember her from the debate when Donald Trump was debating Joe Biden, and she was the female. She has a visceral hate apparently for Republicans, but just loves the Democrats. And Mayor Pete was on with her Sunday. Pete was in Traverse City, Michigan, by the way, which is a lovely resort area in northern Michigan. Apparently Pete was vacationing, is my guess. Well, anyway, she's talking to him, and he said, hey, talking about the situation where Tim Waltz was saying he carried a gun in battle. He said, you know what? He said they had to go back clear to 2018 to pull up a tiny thing that really meant nothing. It was a misspoke. You see, in Washington, D.C., nobody lies. They only misspoke. Because you can't say lies because, well, that sounds too harsh. So let's say they misspoke. And then if you wonder how he said this, he said, how dare J.D. Vance go out there and go against another military man? And here's exactly what happened. Listen to this. Take a listen and see for yourself.
The fact that a veteran wants to go out and disparage another veteran just goes against certainly everything I learned during my time in service. Look, I think in many ways it's the exception that proves the rule. If the only thing that they can find about Tim Waltz to complain about is to disparage his military record that was clearly honorable. Remember, you can retire at 20 years. Tim Waltz served for 24. And the fact that they have to go back to find a clip from 2018, find the one time that he slipped up when he talks about the weapons of war that he carried, said something instead about carrying a weapon in war. It's kind of an exception that proves the rule in terms of how hard you have to look to find Tim Waltz saying anything that isn't precise and accurate.
Well, there you go, folks. There was Mayor Pete about, well, Tim Waltz just small little misspoke. It was just small, and then Republicans had to go to 2018 to find it. And speaking disparagingly of someone in the military, Mayor Pete, you're an idiot. I served in the military, and if someone calls out their rank and says there's something they're not, we're going to talk about it. But let's talk about Tim's political career. Yes, he was a high school coach. He was a teacher and ultimately ran for Congress and knocked off a Republican who had been in office for, 6 terms? But he used the Teamsters and the unions to back him up. That became his power strength. Once in office, Minnesota had a big budget surplus. Tim says, I'm going to spend it. Oh, boy, did he spend it. He spent it on the schools, threw money at it like nobody's business, including putting menstrual products in boys' restrooms as low as the 4th grade. Sorry, that's offensive. I'm offended, okay? Hey, boys, come on. Also, during the COVID thing, Tim Waltz shut down the state of Minnesota, and I mean shut it down. Schools were closed. They were closed for, nearly a year. That hurt the students a lot. Everybody was forced to stay in. Oh, and to make things even worse, the governor set up a snitch hotline. And if you violated any of his edicts that he said, here's the 800 number for you to call to snitch on your neighbor. If they saw you not wearing your face mask when you were in your own home, call the hotline and snitch on your neighbor. This is what you're getting in government, folks. When the city of Minneapolis being burnt down, Tim's wife said, I kept the window open so I could smell the smoke, smell the burning, as if this was an achievement. This was something good. Those rioters did $500 million worth of damage. And you think that anybody paid them back for all their damage and lost business? Nope. This is what you're getting, folks. You decide for yourself. I'm just giving you my take and what I know and what I have learned in my studies. And there, Mayor Pete saying, he didn't lie. He just misspoke. And besides that, the Republicans, they only care about guns and not children. We're getting ugly, folks. America's getting ugly. Politics is getting even more ugly. And things are going to generate into something really bad. And I hope it ain't violence. Just saying. That's where America stands. And it's not pretty. All I have for you right now. Go forth and discuss it. See ya. All right, for clarity purposes, I want to clear something up involving the term sergeant major and military and commitments and those sort of things involving Governor Tim Waltz. Now, I served in the military from 1970 to 1995, so I'm going to comment based upon my experience and my background. I want you to understand how Tim Waltz got to be where he is and how his term he was using is so deceiving and deceptive. That ain't coming from me. That's coming from people who served under him. All right? That's where it's coming from. All right, here's the deal. They say, Tim Waltz, he served for 24 years. He can retire anytime he wants to. Well, here's the deal, folks. Yes, he did serve total of 24 years, but let's determine how he did it. He did his 20 years, because normally you go in 20 years, you get out after 20, you get your retirement. Well, he retired before the end of the decade, say 1999, okay? So that was his 20. He put in 20, retired. Then 2001 hit, 9/11 hit. Well, right after 2011 hit, Tim Waltz decided, hey, I'm going to re-up. And now you understand here, he's got his 20 already, but he re-upped after 9/11 for a 6-year hitch. Everybody say 6? 5 and 1 is 6. 6-year hitch. The Army told him, okay, here's the deal. You re-up, we're going to send you to a school, sort of like the Air Force has Squadron Officer School and Air War College and Command and Staff, all the things that Air Force people like me had to take. Well, I took Air Force Squadron Officer School and then Command and Staff. Well, anyway, these are courses and classes you have to take. So the Army told Tim Waltz, okay, if you complete this academy, this chief academy, well, you're going to get a new title. You're going to become Sergeant Major of the Army, highest enlisted spot you can get. And the Army said, okay, tell you what, you can use that term while you're going through the course, while you're going through the academy. You can use that term, Sergeant Major. He did. But 4 years in, his unit was notified, hey, we could be calling you guys up to serve in Iraq. And when units are notified, if you have a chance to serve, you're notified in advance. Trust me, because you got to do a lot of planning. You got to get things set up. You got to make plans, and you got a lot of planning you got to do. It ain't just, hey, you're going tomorrow. Don't work that way. Trust me. So they got the advance notice saying, hey, you could be called up, and Tim had 4 years. Had 2 years remaining on his 6-year deal and his schooling. Well, he decided, hey, I ain't going. And after 4 years not completing the academy that he said he would do for the sergeant major ranking, he said, hey, I ain't going to do it. He said, I'm going to run for Congress, and left. Yep, left in 4 years. But that sergeant major ranking that he temporarily had, not full, temporarily, he kept using. Officially, he retired as Chief Master Sergeant. Okay, that's high ranking. A lot of sleeves, a lot of stripes in the sleeve. That's fine, but not Sergeant Major. Some of the people who served after him as Sergeant Major have vehemently, and I mean vehemently, put this guy down, saying he abandoned them. They do not speak highly of Tim Waltz at all. They said they knew where they could be going, and he bailed. Now, just telling you, there's the thing. There's the skinny, folks. Yes, he retired, but he retired before 2000. Re-entered after 9/11 for a 6-year hitch and only served 4 of the 6 years. Bailed out and said, sorry, I'm leaving, but kept the title, which he is not legally entitled to do, but he's been using it all along. If you wonder how it works, and he's getting away with it, and who does anything about it? Nothing. The military, the media, mainstream media is going, well, we don't know. We think, hey, he served. Well, he must be Sergeant Major. Telling you the truth. Now you know what you're getting. Decide how you want to utilize it, folks. It's your vote. Vote any way you feel fit, but make sure you're getting the right people to run your country. That's all I got for you. See ya. Coming up next. All right, in case you didn't know it, there's a video circulating around the social media on whatever social media platforms you happen to watch it, having to do with an arrest that happened here in Fort Wayne of a 29-year-old woman by the name of Tejana Smith. Happened on August the 5th, about 3:30 in the morning. And she was apparently was charged with running a stoplight. And officer approached her. The officer was a gentleman by the name of Mason Willis. He was the one who was involved with the shooting of that Lindsell Parham a while back this summer. But anyway, if you watch the video, there's 3 videos. Actually, there's 4 when you think about it. 3 police videos, one from the officer's car, and one from his body camera, and another from the second officer's body camera. The one that's been floating around on the internet is from a person who was at the scene and started filming with their camera like people do. And it doesn't show you the whole story, and that's the problem. The dash cam and the police officer's body cam show you exactly what was going on. And here's what I've learned. If you're pulled over by a police officer, first thing you do is you put your hands on the steering wheel. 10 and 2. Put your hands on the steering wheel. If he asks you questions, yes, sir, no, sir, you answer his questions, you give him what he asked for. Because that's why he's there. You do that. And that's the plan. And the police officer asked her, hey, I need to see your license. And she said, I don't have my purse with me. I don't have it. Well, what's your name? Immediately, she grabs her cell phone and she starts punching in numbers on her cell phone. Wouldn't talk to the police officer. Sorry, you're already putting yourself in a bad situation. He wants to talk to her. There's no idea. He has no idea who he's working with. And she denies that she ran a stoplight. She says, show me the video. We can't do, you ain't going to do that right there. It ain't going to happen. And he says, hey, get out of the car, because he wants to make sure everybody's safe and what have you. She ain't getting out of the car. And he said, hey, we can do it 2 ways, the nice way or the hard way. Another officer shows up on the scene. 2 officers. Body cams are running. And as you can see, they're pulling her out of the car, and she's fighting like crazy because she don't want to give them the information, and she's being, well, ornery, for lack of a better term. This entire thing goes down, but that one person who's in there, and you can see him across the street area, and you'll see him there holding up their cell phone, a little light on the cell phone. That's the person shooting the video that was seen on social media. But now we've seen the police videos, the camera video, the 2 officers' video. It's plain as day to me that you don't follow police orders, you're going to have problems. That's the way I was taught. That's the way everybody should be taught. She obviously wanted to have nothing to do with the police officer and wasn't going to answer any question and was belligerent. Sorry, that's my opinion. My opinion only. Let the courts decide. I'm telling you what I saw. If I was sitting on a jury and it was a jury trial, I'm going to say, ma'am, you screwed up. You didn't do what the police officer told you to do. Fight ensued outside the car. This is a bigger woman throwing the officer around, kicking the officer. The 2 officers finally get her down and get her handcuffed. And not a good scene. Well, it's turned into a big deal like this often do when someone posts a video. I'm just telling you right now, what I saw from 3 cameras tells me the person in the wrong was the driver of the car. She shouldn't have done what she did. When an officer asks you a question, you answer the question. You give them what they want. Those are the rules. You don't follow the rules, things may go south on you. Just saying. It's my opinion. That's all I got right now. See ya. Coming up next. Used by a number of Democrats, a number of mainstream media people, all saying that AJ, Donald Trump's running mate, is weird. Now, you probably heard that because I've heard it all over the place. Well, Rolling Stone magazine says Trump was telling rallygoers that Dems conspired with the media to call him weird. That's because they're calling him weird. Well, you know where it came from? Tim Waltz. That's right. The governor of Minnesota was the person who coined the term, they're weird. That's what he said. And suddenly everybody in the media and on the MSNBC and CNN and wherever else using the term weird as part of a talking point. You have to understand something. This is the way it works. Talking points are sent out by email, text, and the party, how they get something juicy. They say, oh, this is juicy. We got to use this. They will send a blast text out to everybody. Here are today's news cycle talking points. Use this in your conversation. And it goes to politicians, it goes to media, and it goes everywhere. Of course, you see a Roman Pro say, oh, there's no proof that the media called him weird. Well, no, the media just echoed calling him weird because it was started by Tim Waltz, and it was part of the media talking points that were distributed to all the politicians on the left, all the media on the left, MSNBC, CNN rather, Morning Joe, whatever. This is the way it works. So if you hear the echo chamber going on, I hate to use that term because it's a terrible term, echo chamber is going on is only because everybody involved was given a text or an email, briefed, here are today's media talking points. Use them liberally. That's where they come from. I ain't making this up. Ask anybody who's in politics. Do you guys get the talking points for the day? Well, nationally, politically, it goes around. That's why you hear every network saying the same thing. Oh, weird, weird, weird. Well, so it ultimately came from Tim Waltz, the governor of Minnesota. So now you can thank, maybe not the media, they didn't create it, Tim Waltz did, but everybody made sure it got distributed to everybody in the D Party. Just letting you know. That's all I know right now. That's all I got for you. See ya. Coming up next. All right, folks, I have a bit of hypocrisy for you to take a look at. I want you to take a look at your screen there. There's a story that says Kamala Harris is having a rally in Phoenix, Arizona coming up. And at this rally, you are required to present your ID to be admitted. Now, this comes from the same individual in the same party that says that presenting an ID to vote is racist. Now, wait a minute. How could she possibly say that presenting an ID to vote is racist, but attending a rally that she is sponsoring in Arizona, Phoenix to be exact, is not fine? Well, her campaign was contacted, and they said, hey, what about this? The campaign says, we have nothing to say. So, special invite is going out to people, and you must present your ID to be admitted to this event. All right, is this hypocrisy? That's your call, not mine. I'll tell you what I think. I mean, I've got to present my ID to vote here in the state of Indiana. Many other states require it. They want to make sure the person who's voting is the person whose name is on the ledger, so everything matches up. I'm a registered person. There's my name. There's my address. Here's my ID. That's who I am. There's my picture. Okay, fine. But if I want to go to a Kamala Harris rally, I must present an ID? And you're telling me that that's racist? That's obstructionary to people voting? But if you want to attend one of her rallies, you got to have your ID. All right, wasn't sure I'm getting this right, but there you go. Got to have that to enter the Arizona rally, and yet claiming that voter ID laws are racist. Folks, I'm just telling you what's going on, how the world is living. The world is in bad shape, folks, and this kind of nonsense proves it. This is where we're going. In a lot of ways, folks, this ain't right. I have been around since, well, Eisenhower was in presidency. I've seen things come and go, but I've never seen it as bad as it is today. The tribal divisions that exist in this country, the hate, the distrust, all of these things are turning family members against family members, husbands against wives, brothers against brothers. The last time this happened was the Civil War. What, are we going down another one? Just saying. I'm just saying. That's all I have for now. See ya. Coming up next. All right. Well, speaking of politics, and yes, I am going to speak of politics again because, well, political season. I have been listening to some of the rhetorical speeches given by Kamala Harris, talking about what her plan for, her policy decisions for the upcoming election in the next 8 years if she gets elected. And the thing I've heard her talk mostly about two particular things. One, the right to life, determining how someone should determine who lives and who doesn't. Yeah, I know that's sort of a convoluted term for abortion. That's one of her main platforms. She is promising women and men that if she's elected, she will institute a nationwide law that will allow abortions in every single state in the union. National law. That's part of her platform. Secondarily, she's talking about Project 2025. Oh, this is the evil they're purporting. Project 2025. Now, what is it? Well, turns out there's actually two projects we're dealing with here. Project 2025 was created by the Heritage Foundation starting back in 1980. And every year they come up with, hey, if we get the presidency and get the House and the Senate, we have the trifecta. All three, okay? Ready? We can change some laws. We can change the direction of America. We can change government. We can drain the swamp. Get rid of people. Bring in our own policies. That's Project 2025. Now, the Democrats are saying, Donald Trump's going to do this, Donald Trump's going to do that. The biggest one purporting, fighting this is the ACLU. They're saying, Trump's 2025, they're going to take away your rights. No. 2025 does things like get rid of the government bureaucracy. Because they're saying, all the people who work in the government basically work through the executive branch. And they want to have Trump have the right to say he's getting rid of all those people in those particular executive branch under the unitary executive theory. Replace them all with people loyal to Trump because they're all civil servants right now and you really can't fire them. Okay, that's a problem. Then they want to do things like, get rid of the Department of Education, clean out the Justice Department, the FBI, the Commerce Department, the Federal Communications Commission, even the Federal Trade Commission, and dismantle the Homeland Security, DHS. Well, that may not be a bad idea, frankly. A bunch of stuff they want to do. If they get the presidency, if they get the Senate, if they get the House. They can't get all three of them. It ain't going to happen, folks, so don't let them fool you with this jargon. Now, Trump, he's got a thing called Agenda 47. That agenda says, I'm going to lower taxes. I'm going to increase tariffs to everybody bringing stuff into the United States. Now, it's going to cost some people more. You buy something made overseas, yeah, it's going to cost you more. Buy it made in America, okay? So, lowering taxes, increasing tariffs, and people in the service industry will not be charged taxes on tips. Well, now, believe it or not, Kamala is actually saying the same thing herself. She's copying it. I heard it. She's saying the same thing. So there's where we stand, folks. Project 2025 is a wish list from the Heritage Foundation if they get the House, the Senate, and the presidency in the same swath. That don't happen. All these wishing and hoping and thinking and dreaming, all crap that they're putting in, ain't going to happen. Just so you have a little more education, when you hear the babblings of politicians on the stump telling you stuff and you're going, really? Is that what they're going to do? Now, you need to know the rest of the story, and I've just told it to you. So now, you have Agenda 47 from Trump, 2025 from the Heritage Foundation, who hopes that Trump wins, but also hoping for the Senate and the House as well. That's all what's out there. That's the plan, ladies and gentlemen. Now you understand. Hopefully you can go forth and tell everybody else what you know. Either that or just act stupid. Whichever the call is, it's yours. That's all I got for you. See ya. Coming up next. All right. You're probably aware that Time magazine put Kamala on their cover. Yes, it was in a black and white, like a pencil sketch, but it had a nice little blue bonnet of sorts, a war bonnet around it, blue being the blue states for the Democrats. Anyway, that was the cover of Time magazine. But keep something in mind, Time is not a major player anymore in the publishing business. Their publisher does live and work, I guess work, in San Francisco. Gee, Kamala's from California, San Francisco. I wonder if they're friends. Just saying. Well, not to be outdone, Newsweek magazine, another magazine that frankly isn't that big anymore, has even published another magazine that's talking about a proposal Donald Trump had, and suddenly now they're saying Kamala Harris, it's her proposal. Well, Newsweek magazine kind of fudges things big time, but keep in mind, they're not being honest. They're trying to sway stupid people. People in the Republican Party will say, oh, she thought of that. That's really cool. I'm going to vote for her. This is what it says. I don't have a quote in the article. Quote, the majority of Americans support plans to end federal taxes on tips given to service industry workers. According to an exclusive poll for Newsweek, which shows Kamala Harris embraced the policy plan first announced by her opponent, Donald Trump, unquote. So what they're saying is, hey, if you're not reading close enough, it was Kamala's plan. And that's what they're saying. And yet, he introduced it back in July. Said this is what he's going to do. Kamala's going, oh no, hey, I'm doing it. I love this. Vote for me. I support it. That's what's going on. This is how we play the game in American politics. And the people on X, as you know, Donald Trump was on there with Elon Musk. 2-hour session. No notes. No teleprompter. Nobody whispering in his ear. Sat there and talked for 2 hours. 2 hours. Unscripted. Now, it took him 40 minutes, 45 minutes to get it started because there was a massive cyber attack on the X platform. Ain't the first time they've tried this, folks. Denial of service. But there was Trump talking for 2 hours. Now, can Ms. Harris do that? 2 hours, unscripted, no notes, no teleprompter? Oh, that's going to be interesting to see. However, Newsweek magazine is now on the act trying to convince you that no tips for service workers? That's Kamala's thing. Just vote for her anyway. I'm just telling you what's going on. Politics is an ugly, dirty business, and it's all about power. Getting power, keeping power, and controlling people with your power. That's what she wants, And that's what the political industrial complex in Washington, D.C. wants. A Democrat running the nation. Just saying. That's all I got for now. See ya. Coming up next. All right, let me ask you guys something, and maybe you can be helpful in this. How many of you out there are having to take DEI training? Yes, diversity, equity, and inequality training. Well, let me tell you about a gentleman who works for the Colorado penal system. His name's Joshua. He was forced to take the training. Either take the training or lose your job. And he ended up filing a lawsuit saying, they're telling us that all white people are racist. He said, I work in a prison where we have people we have to deal with, and if the prisoners think that all white people are racist, he said it's going to create a big problem for us trying to keep control of what's going on in the prisons. So he filed a lawsuit. Well, that lawsuit went up to the 10th District Court of Appeals, who ultimately 3 judges dismissed it. But the judges said, you know what? This is troubling on many, many levels, the judges said. The ideological messaging and race-based rhetoric is well on the way to constituting harassment. This is from the 10th Circuit. Now, they dismissed the case, but already there are 7 lawsuits on the books suing over DEI. Now, a number of companies that used to have DEI are abandoning it, saying, this ain't working, this is bad, this is creating a bigger problem than it's solving. They're saying, nope, we got to get this done. Hey, we can't do this. Tractor Supply, they lost people, lost their sponsors. A lot of folks are saying, well, this DEI thing, we did it after the George Floyd thing, and we felt guilty and all the other stuff. But, man, it ain't working. You can't just tell white people, you're all racist. And now it's in the courts. And eventually, you mark my words, this is ultimately going to end up in the U.S. Supreme Court, who's going to finally decide, as much as I hate to say it, whether DEI is legal and can be forced upon employees like you and me and everybody else. We shall see what happens. But there's a little something you need to know. 7 cases already on the books. People are suing over DEI. And the worst thing you can do is try to take inequality and make it equal. You can't do that. It doesn't work. Everybody loses. But apparently some people think, this is a win. DEI, people are suing. And you know what? I think it's going to end up in the high court eventually and let them decide, is this really a legitimate thing to tell people? Just saying. It's where I stand right now. Now you know. That's it for now. See ya. Coming up next. All right, what do you say we talk about another controversy that is currently going on here in the state of Indiana, as well as, other states around the United States, because we're all kind of stuck in the same situation. It seems that a number of states around the United States have decided to legalize marijuana. Even though it's a federal crime, the feds have it listed as a Schedule I drug, one of the worst, of course. But other states have said, no, it's not. Now, some are having medical marijuana. They allow that. Some are allowing recreational marijuana. Anybody who wants to get it can get it, I guess, if you're old enough. Well, as it turns out, states around Indiana have legalized it. Michigan, for one, was a while back. And now the state of Ohio has legalized recreational marijuana. And that has created a big problem for the state of Indiana. What are we going to do? Now, there's many who say, it's time for the legislature to legalize marijuana and take in the tax money, because there's a lot of money to be made in this, yes. But some people down there in Indianapolis are saying, nope, we don't need to have another drug. We got enough problem with alcohol and everything else, so we don't need another drug. But you got detractors, they're going to exist. Let's be honest. Well, this whole thing goes back to... if you think about it, it goes back to a movie from 1936 called Reefer Madness. Does anybody remember that? Reefer Madness was actually sponsored by a church group. Originally, the movie was called Tell Your Children, and it was intended to show parents about the morality tale. That's what it was. Teach their kids about the dangers of cannabis. And ultimately, that became kind of a cult movie because a lot of stuff in there is not legit. But that's the thing that was done. And to stop marijuana because people said it was dangerous, and then eventually Congress turned it into a Schedule I drug. Well, now Ohio, Michigan, it's legal. And back in the old days, I would say back in the 1970s, if memory serves me right, you could drive over to Hicksville, Ohio. I think there was a club over there serving 3-2 beer, if memory serves me right. Kids would run over there because they could drink over there and sadly drive back. And that's the part that caused law enforcement some real serious heartache. Kids going over there, getting themselves drunk, driving back on the highway back in Indiana. Folks, driving and drinking is dangerous. I don't care who you are. All right, so eventually Ohio changed its laws, went to 21. All that stopped. And alcohol, 21 years of age. Well, there you go. That's how we stopped it. We also invented a thing called the breathalyzer, where people could, police officer could make you blow into a thing and it'd tell you how much alcohol you have in your body. That sort of slowed things down a little bit, sort of. Well, now with marijuana, we got a bigger problem. You see, there is no machine that you could blow into that'll tell you your level of marijuana intoxication, if that's what they call it. I don't have one yet. Maybe they'll get one? Yes. They can do a blood test and see what your amount of marijuana is in your blood, I guess. But you can't do it by the curbside. It ain't going to happen. So, Indiana's stuck in a problem. What are we going to do? We're going to legalize it? Well, we've tried keeping things prohibited. Remember Prohibition? Oh, yeah. Prohibition goes back a long way. Matter of fact, Prohibition was back in clear 1918. And Congress decided to try to have a constitutional amendment, and they did. It passed the House by 68%, and it passed the Senate by 72%. Now, the president at the time, Woodrow Wilson, decided to veto it. Couldn't do it. They overrode him. 46 of the 48 states approved. America went dry from 1917 until, well, 1930s. Except we weren't dry. People were making booze. Rum runners were running things in. Organized crime was doing stuff. It existed. New York had hundreds, maybe thousands of speakeasies in New York alone, New York City. So prohibiting alcohol really didn't work. So can we prohibit marijuana coming into the state of Indiana legally? Well, we have a problem. The banks won't deal with it because the feds consider it Schedule I drug. Banks won't touch it. It's strictly a cash business. People have to buy cash. But if they're driving to Ohio, buying marijuana, or driving to Michigan to buy marijuana, are they smoking it and bringing it back stoned? I don't know. That's the problem, and that's where we have a problem right now, folks. So the bigger question is, should marijuana be legalized in the state of Indiana because Ohio did it, Michigan did it? Or should we stand firm and say, no, we ain't going to do that because we can't test for it when people are driving? That's what I'm concerned about. And there have been people that have been pulled over under the influence of drugs. That's a big different animal. And frankly, I don't want to get killed, and I don't want any of my family to get killed by somebody who's stoned. Sorry. That's just me. Now, they find a way to test people who are driving, I might consider it. But yes, they're saying, it's a boatload of money. It's lots of money tax-wise. Indiana can make a boatload of money, yeah? Trouble is, with getting a boatload of money, you're just going to spend it. Depends on what you spend it on. So all I'm saying is, something for you to think about. Should marijuana be legalized, although it's still illegal federally? And yes, there's money in, but do you want people driving in your state who could be under the influence and kill you or your kids? Ask yourself that question. Then you can make a decision. That's my take on it, just my take. What do you think? That's all I got for you right now. See ya. Coming up next. All right, if you don't mind, I would like to take a few moments to talk to you about what is going on with our government and our country, and frankly, what's happening in the world. Way back in, and not way back, but in July, a few weeks ago, A lady by the name of Tulsi Gabbard, you may be familiar with. She was a former congressman from Hawaii. She ended up leaving the Democrat Party and became an independent, and frankly, deals with a lot of the Republicans, and she's more of a Republican, I guess, than an independent. Well, she was on Laura Ingram's show, which runs on Fox every weeknight, 7 o'clock. And she was on there talking about what is going on with the government and what's concerned. She was anti the Ukraine war and discussing some of the stuff that government is doing. And all of this happened right after Kamala Harris was named as the new person running for president, usurping Joe Biden, who was forced to step down. Well, as a result of her being on the Laura Ingraham show, the very next day, Tulsi Gabbard was placed upon the no-fly list, better known as the undercover security list, a special list for people who get extra surveillance, domestic terrorism watch list. You ready? That's what it's called, the domestic terrorism watch list. She was placed on that list. What does that mean? Well, she travels a lot. She has to. I mean, she lives in Hawaii. That's where she's from. Comes to, Washington, D.C., the other cities. She's on television a lot. She has to travel by airlines. When she gets her airline ticket, there's 4 stars stamped on the airline ticket that says, give this person very special observation. I mean, they check everything on her. They take every piece of luggage she has and inspect it totally. Yeah. They pat her down in ways that you don't want to be patted down. And here's the other thing. Every time she flies on a flight onto the domestic terrorism watch list, where she is now placed, three special agents have to fly in the same plane with her. That's right. 3 air marshals are required to fly on that flight with her. So let's say she's got to take 3 flights a day. That's 9 agents. Do you realize how much money and time they're spending? Government watching and surveilling her? That's what this is. She is being surveilled by the federal government because she said something on Laura Ingram's show that apparently someone in government didn't like. Folks, if you've had to deal with TSA, I mean, let's face it, we all go to the airport, you got to get checked over and give me your ID and take off your shoes and do this and do that, hold your hands up, we're going to x-ray you. And frankly, most of us don't like it, but it came after 9/11. Tulsi Gabbard gets the 4 stars on her ticket that says, do it really intensely. Look at everything. And place 3 air marshals on every flight she flies. And a team of dogs have to come in and do some inspection. How would you like that if that was done to you? You wouldn't like it, nor would I. That's where we are, America. That's what we have become. So violate her First Amendment, then violate her Fourth Amendment. All for what? She said something the government didn't like when she was on Laura Ingraham, and she's popular, and she left the Democratic Party. That's where we are, folks. That is the status of what exists in the United States government today, and you better know what's going on. Of course, when this gets out, they're probably going to put me on that same list. Just saying. Something you should know about. It ain't good, but now you know. That's all I got for you right now. See ya. Coming up next. All right, I have a question for you that involves a television personality. How many of you watch the TV show Shark Tank? Show of hands. Let's see. Very popular show. One of the hosts, or one of the investors, if you will, is Kevin O'Leary. Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Money, money bags, whatever he calls himself. He's been talking about the election and the possibility of Kamala Harris becoming president. He said, after August the 7th, happy days are gone. There's risk. And he says, if Kamala doesn't move to the center, it's going to be big trouble. See, what happened was on August the 5th, as you know, the Dow Jones dropped over 1,000 points, which is almost 3% of the market. NASDAQ and S&P dropped down about 3, almost 4%. And the Dow and the S&P 500 had their worst day since September 2022. Now, we got a weak jobs report. Another one just came out, and it's getting weaker. Declining manufacturing. Companies are laying people off, big companies. John Deere, over 1,000. Stellantis makes the Chrysler, the Dodge. Laid off 4,000 people in Wisconsin, or in Michigan, I'm sorry. 4,000 people in Michigan. Companies are laying people off. Hey, even people are pulling out of major high-tech companies. Trust me, it's not looking good. We could be on the road to recession. And what Kamala Harris does is going to determine how we have it. But here's what Kevin O'Leary said. He said, look, they're raking in money hand over fist. They're killing it with the fundraising. And they're still in the happy phase. And frankly, he says, Kamala doesn't need, Kamala, whatever you choose to call her, really doesn't need to do a press conference. The media is going to cover her butt. That's right. The media is going to go, oh, no, she's just smart. She's doing what she's got to do. And to which Kevin O'Leary said, here's the problem. Up in Canada, now, I don't know how many of you know about Canada, but they had that gentleman up in Canada who was said, well, hey, I'm not going to do anything either. I'm not going to talk to the media. And his name was Justin Trudeau. Remember that name? Wavy hair. Didn't tell anybody anything. Said, oh, everything's going to be fine. I'm not going to talk to you. Until he got into office, they found out he didn't know what the hell he was doing. People in Canada are going, this guy is a joke. But they elected him anyway. He didn't say anything, didn't tell them what his policies are. Kevin O'Leary says, look, I'm voting for the person with the right policies. And that's what you should be thinking about, the right policies. Let's not look at personalities. Who has the policies? Are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? That was a question that Donald Trump said to Elon Musk at his meeting with him that lasted 2 hours on X, the old Twitter. So, Kevin O'Leary says, hey, she could put out a recession. Well, you tell you what, folks, we may already be in one. Just my thoughts on this. I'm not an economist. But if you take a look at what's going on out there, it ain't pretty. It ain't pretty at all. That's what my thoughts are. What are your thoughts? Well, we'll find out come the election and see which person you think has the best policy to lead America in the next, 4, 8 years? Who knows? Now you know what I know. That's all I got for you. See ya. Coming up next. Well, hello again, and this time let's talk about consumer safety. Let me ask you guys a question. How many of you out there like to cook with gas as compared to electricity? Well, I happen to be one of those. I very much enjoy cooking with gas because I can control the temperature. Well, a battle has developed, and it looks like it receded, but I think it's coming back, and let me explain to you why. Seems the Biden administration was going to introduce legislation through the Consumer Product Safety Commission and a gentleman by the name of Rich Trumka Jr., one of the commissioners, there's 5 of them, and want to introduce legislation to ban, you heard me right, ban gas stoves. Probably a lot of other gas stuff too, but start with the gas stoves, let's be honest. And so that was his plan. And sending that to the government to say, hey, ban gas cooking, gas stoves. Well, that honked off a lot of people, okay? Like me. And so suddenly Mr. Trumka had to, how should we say, back down? Well, all right, fine, you figured, no, they're not going to do it. Well, you are wrong. Because out in the state of California, yes, California, home of Kamala Harris, yeah, that's her. Well, they have introduced a bill in the Assembly of California, and it's probably going to pass. I believe it's bill number AB 2513. And they say in 2025, here's the deal. They are going to affix a large, prominent sticker in a very prominent place on your stove. I'm not sure if it's in the front of the window, where you got the oven, or on the top, or wherever they're going to put it. They want to make sure it's really prominent. You can't miss it. And it's a warning. Yes, California wants to create a warning, not just for California, but everything in California, folks, whether you like it or not, ends up into your backyard. It just does. That's just how it works. This warning is going to say, quote, I'm quoting it here, gas stoves release nitrogen dioxide, benzene, carbon monoxide, formaldehyde, and other harmful pollutants into the air, which can be toxic to people and pets. Figure that's it, right? No, it ain't. Stove emissions, especially from gas stoves, are associated with increased respiratory disease. Young children, people with asthma, and people with heart or lung disease are especially vulnerable to the toxic effect of combustion pollution. To help reduce the risk of breathing in harmful gases, allow ventilation in the area and turn on a vent hood when gas-powered stoves and ranges are in use. That's the sticker they want to put on every stove sold in the state of California. Well, manufacturers understand most of the stoves that are sold in the country, sold in the country, boy, that's a lot of words, are sold in California, like cars, that kind of stuff. So get ready the next time you buy a gas stove, or maybe you'll be instructed to put this sticker on your gas stove, not in the back, not in the side, but in a prominent place. Right there, maybe on the top, the front, wherever. Gas stoves are bad. Just saying, something you need to know about. Because, folks, it's happening in California, and pretty soon it will be happening to you. Just thought you might want to know. That's all I got. See ya. Coming up next. All right, folks, this is going to be a difficult one for me to talk about because it deals with, well, finances. And I am not an economist by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just telling you what I see, what I know what's going on, and what I understand could be happening, whether you or I like it or not. But it does appear that, well, as much as I hate to say it, America could be nudging themselves into a recession. You're saying, wait a minute, you're not qualified to say that. Well, yeah, probably not. But I'm telling you what I'm seeing. Here's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a stock market a few days ago drop over 1,000 points. I see job numbers coming in that showing the jobless rate is going up, not down. I'm seeing people going to a McDonald's and using their credit card, not cash. Now, I realize I use cash because credit cards are taking away money from McDonald's. But people are living on credit cards, and the debt in America is now over $2 trillion of people debt. And they keep getting higher and higher debt on their credit cards. That's not good. That means America doesn't have the money. People don't have the money, and they're charging it in hopes that things will get better. The Fed's interest rate is 5%, and they said, well, it should come down in September. Well, maybe not, because the Fed does that. They're showing an interest in one party, and obviously the Democrats are going to say, see what we did? We lowered the interest rate. Fed's not supposed to do that. Could they do it? Yes. But there are people saying the Fed should have dropped their rate sooner. It should be down a quarter point, a half point, whatever. And right now you've got Americans that are refusing to pay higher prices, and they're shopping around for things that are cheaper. You go to the grocery store, you say, man, that thing has gone skyrocketing. You look for something that's cheaper made by somebody else. That's what Americans are doing nowadays, folks. They're going cheap. And the economy is going with it. Companies, nationwide companies, John Deere just laid off over 1,000 because farmers aren't buying tractors. The price of the wheat and the soybeans and the stuff they sell is down. They can't afford to go out and buy new stuff. Stellantis, which is like Chrysler, I believe, is shutting down a plant in Michigan. 2,400 workers are losing their job. They're not going to be making the Ram 15. I think it's the Ram 1500. Could be wrong. Okay, if I am, I am. But they're shutting down an entire plant, telling 2,400 people, sorry, you're out of a job. Yeah, can they find some other place? I mean, when the GM factory in Wisconsin shut down, they came to Fort Wayne, which is now the reason we have a lot of new Packer fans here in the city of Fort Wayne, because they came from Wisconsin. Fine, that's perfectly okay. So, can the Stellantis employees find a new job someplace else in the United States? Yes, they may. But the trouble is, they're going to have to move. Can they afford it? So, as America is stepping toward a recession, all the economic pictures and windows are saying, sure looks that way. The new jobs report is due out this month involving July. If it's bad, we are going toward a recession. It may be a soft recession. It may be a gentle recession. I don't know. But it ain't looking good. From my perspective, I'm not an economist, I admit that. But man, I'm seeing enough things that scare the hell out of me when it comes to the economy. And Wall Street ain't helping nothing. 1,000-point drop one day? Yeah, it got a little recovery. But we are living large, and we shouldn't be. Things ain't looking good economic-wise, America. Just be ready, and don't say you didn't know about it, because now you've been informed. That's all I got for you right now. See ya. Coming up next. Alrighty, I want you to take a look at the picture on your screen. That happens to be Delta Airlines Executive Vice President Kyra Lynn Johnson. Now, who is she? She is the person in charge of DEI. That would be diversity, equity, and inclusion. And she's also called the Social Impact Officer. Now, why is this important? Well, when you go to the airlines and they're ready for you to board your flight, you're sitting in the waiting area, everybody's huddled around. The person comes on the speaker and says, ladies and gentlemen, we're now starting to board Delta flight number 760, whatever it is. But the person says, ladies and gentlemen. Well, Ms. Johnson says, no, we can't do that anymore. And has now issued a new employees language guide. And in it, you are supposed to use general neutral pronouns and never say anything that suggests a binary gender. Are you hearing me? Delta Airlines has a DEI officer now telling the gate attendants to never say anything that suggests binary people. Don't say ladies and gentlemen. I haven't figured out what the hell they're going to say. Dudes? Semi-dudes? Sort of dudes? Y'all, how about this? Hey, y'all, get on the airplane. That might work. This is where DEI is ripping society apart. Now, other organizations around the U.S. are saying, this is a bad concept. I mean, they're dumping DEI stuff saying, this ain't working, this is destroying, and it is. And for me, next time I have to go fly somewhere, it ain't going to be on Delta, folks. Just pass this along to the folks at Delta. Hey, dudes, I ain't riding in your airline. You got DEI crap going on? I ain't buying it. So what are you going to say to me at the gate? Sir, madam, no, can't use that? Well, that's the latest. There's something. It's right there. You can read it for yourself. Right there on good old Fox News. Delta Airlines Executive Vice President Kyra Lynn Johnson, the DEI officer and social impact. Her job is to, reform America. It ain't reforming me, sweetheart. It ain't reforming me. Just passing this along to you, so when you have to fly, consider maybe not flying Delta. After all, you aren't a lady or a gentleman, apparently, if you fly on Delta. That's all I got for you. Now you know. See ya. Coming up next. In Sao Paulo, Brazil, involving a ATR 72-500, which is a TR-72 pilot game. We call it a Trash 72. It's a It's a plane made French and Italian. They kind of went together and created this high wing. And the high wing means the wing sits on top of the fuselage rather than the mid-fuselage or bottom. Sits on top. Those used to be flown here in Fort Wayne by Air Wisconsin. For those of you that remember the days of Air Wisconsin, they used to fly those. As a matter of fact, one of the guys I knew in the Guard was a Wisconsin. He flew the Trash 72 himself. Well, anyway, I happen to have a personal experience with a particular crash of an American Eagle flight, and it was American Eagle Flight 4184. It happened back on October 31st, 1994. The reason I remember all this was because I was flying back on a mission from Springfield, Illinois. My co-pilot was Colonel Bob Franke. And we were flying, I guess, around 15,000 feet coming back to Springfield. You get in the Chicago Center area, from Springfield back to Fort Wayne. Late in the afternoon, I guess around, 4 o'clock, 4 to 5, somewhere in there. And it was Halloween, I remember that day. And we were flying over there near Chicago, and we got into some icing conditions. Now, the plane I was flying, the C-26, I turned on the prop heat, the wing heat. I turned on everything I had. Inlet heat, you name it, I turned it on because we were getting icing. Icing's a bad thing on airplanes because ice builds up on the wing, it loses lift, and if you lose lift on your airplane, that airplane's going to come down. Okay? Just what it is. Well, we got back to Fort Wayne, I jumped in the car, and happened to have my car tuned the radio to WGN in Chicago. And they were talking about an airline crash that happened over there in northwest Indiana. And I went, oh my God, we were just flying through that area. And they were saying, yeah, the plane had icing and it crashed into a soybean field, I think it was, over near a nature camp. Can I say that? Yeah, I guess I can. For people that like to run around naked. Well, anyway, so that was the same day, same everything. And I'm sitting there in the car going, man, I just flew through that. And an Air Wisconsin, or a American Eagle plane had 68 passengers aboard, was flying from Indianapolis to Chicago O'Hare. And it got in a holding pattern because it was crowded. The visibility in Chicago was down like to, 1,500 feet, 3-mile viz. In Chicago, you're going to get stacked up. That happens. Because a lot of planes are coming in. They got to bring everybody in. It's weather conditions, IFR. It's not good. We flew that. And we had icing building up. And that plane built up ice because it's on the top of the wing. And the pilot can't see it. It's visually impossible because of where the wing is. It's above them. Well, after all that happened, because they've had about, I'm going to guess, 470 people over the years have been killed flying in that plane. So what the airlines did, they decided they're not going to fly those planes in the northern territories. Like northern Indiana, Michigan, those areas. They flew them all down south, took them down to Florida, and they don't get that kind of icing. Well, this plane flying in Brazil, you got to remember, this time of year, it's August for us. But down in Brazil, it's winter. Winter, you get icing. And there's video of the plane coming down in what is called a flat spin. You lose your lift, that plane going to a spin, it could go inverted. This one happened to be coming down just a flat spin. You can't get out of that. And it crashed. And it killed 61 people because that happened. So should that plane be flying in the bad weather? Well, they've tried to fix that wing problem, the icing, but it still can go back a ways. It's sad, it's unfortunate, but I remember it happening on that date, 1994, October 31st. Flying back to Springfield, Illinois with my friend and co-pilot, Colonel Bob Franke. We flew through the same area. American Eagle 4184 flew through and didn't make it home. Just telling you because it brought back memories when I heard that happen. Airline flying is traditionally safe as you can get. But sometimes Mother Nature steps in. Sometimes. Not always, but sometimes. A little something for you to know that you maybe didn't know. That's all I have for you for right now. See ya. Well, that does it for today's edition of the Pat White Show. Thanks for tuning in, and make sure to follow us on social media for the latest Pat White Show, for all the news and updates. And stay tuned for brand new episodes of the Pat White Show coming real soon. Like what you're hearing? Make sure you don't miss an episode by following The Pat White Show on Spotify. Just search for The Pat White Show, hit follow, and get ready for insightful conversations delivered straight to your Spotify feed. If you enjoy watching podcasts as much as listening to them, good news! The Pat White Show is also on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel now for visual content, behind-the-scenes footage, and full podcast experience. Find us on YouTube at The Pat White Show channel.